funny to think, isn't it, on this day and age about just how big television shows were back in the day, you know? The sort of thing that could literally get everybody round the table, round the telly, listening and, of course, anticipation about what truly was going to happen. You know, it's a funny thing, as I say, because now, are there any real shows like that anymore? We get heard about streaming things, binge watching, stuff like that, but nothing as big as this show, particularly in the year of 1980. It was the show that everybody was talking about, and the cliffhanger was simply this: who shot JR? But now, let me tell you this. Good to see you, chums, today on a bit of a wet and windy evening here in London town. It's a funny thing though, isn't it, truly? You know, when you look back at things, I remember, for instance, when Blue Peter, the children's TV series over here, and they climbed up at the top of Nelson's column, and you know, I mean, no health and safety then, do you know what I'm saying? Literally, he was hanging on, and you think, wow. And I just remember thinking, hope they don't make us do something like that at school. In those days they did, you know, it was a weird thing, wasn't it? We're all going to go and do this now, hardly any health and safety. Not much health and safety, of course, for the brilliant actor Larry Hagman, when he became the #1 sensation, of course, up in the world of Dallas. Who shot JR was the big talking point. And do you remember also, I don't know if you do remember this bit of footage, but I remember seeing this on the news, on the BBC News, and they had the guy bringing in the cans of film, basically under a security guard, so that nobody could find out who shot JR before the broadcast. I mean, an absolute farce. All the videos would have been at TV Centre, but it was a great publicity gimmick, wasn't it? Larry Hagman was over here in London, of course, at that time, to appear on the Royal Variety Performance, thankfully being saved by his mother, the brilliant Broadway star Mary Martin, when he died live on stage. Many people remember that. But what's fascinating to know is that Larry could have been part of one of the biggest soap operas over here in the United Kingdom. You see, he was up at Granada TV in the very heart of Manchester, and he'd agreed to make an appearance on a show over there, basically just a live entertainment show. He was the big star, the big guest. Everybody wanted him because obviously everybody asked that burning question, but of course he was never going to tell the answer. But that's just how big, as I say, those TV shows were. The Dallases, the Dynasties, the Falcon Crest, all of that sort of stuff. Now, while he was up in Manchester, he had a bit of a tour, but the one thing that he wanted to go and do was actually go and visit the biggest soap opera in the world, in the United Kingdom, should I say, over here, and that was Coronation Street. Now, I told you the other day about how Coronation Street is literally on its uppers right now, and they're having to chop staff and writers and all sorts of stuff just to survive. Back then, twice a week, the show got millions of viewers with the likes of Annie Walker and Bette Lynch. What was interesting was Larry wanted to meet the cast, and he duly did, and everybody thought this was marvellous. Now, this is the difference between then and now. You see, the idea was that they basically said, could Larry, would he, you know, would it be possible, all that sort of stuff, could he be perhaps an extra, even just hidden away in the famous bar of the Rover's Return in Weatherfield, just so that he could say he'd appeared in the show. Now, you've got to remember, many famous people have appeared in Coronation Street over the years. In fact, the former monkey, Davy Jones, got his first big break in that show, playing, of course, alongside Ina Sharples. Many years later, Sir Ian McKellen appeared in there, as did, of course, the wonderful actress Stephanie Beacham. But here's the deal. He had to put a call back into Lorimor Television Productions, the makers of Dallas, and they said a firm no. And this was because he was their property, their #1 star, and they didn't really want any deflection away from their big soap. You know, I mean, as I say, hard to imagine different times. Now, of course, in modern day times, they wouldn't necessarily stick to that, would they? That would be all over Instagram, Twitter, some social media account, you know what I mean? But back then, people were more, shall we say, deferential, perhaps a little bit more worried about their jobs, even though they couldn't really make the show without Larry Hagman. They had to get him back to find out, of course, once we revealed, can you remember who shot him? Mary Crosby, remember? That's right. Well, of course, once she'd been revealed, they had to take the show in a different direction as the person who shot JR. But sadly for him, he was never able to make that connection back again with Coronation Street. And apparently he was a fan. And that's the reason why J.R. Ewing never appeared on the iconic street. Neil Sean in the very heart of London.